G'day, Andrew from MissMooRC, back for part 4 of our Power Sports Rascal mini bike build. Today we're going to be working on our Tilloston 212cc engine. You would have seen in our earlier videos we removed the cowling and the pull start from the engine. Today we're planning on removing some of the unneeded accessories like the fuel tank. We'll be doing stage 1 upgrade kit, so removing the airbox. Also have to change out the jet on the carburetor, and also doing the governor removal, so that'll require removing the flywheel and also taking the side cover off the other side of the engine to get inside to remove the governor arm from inside with the pulley. What else? Oh, and the exhaust has to come off too. So a bit to do. Yeah, stay tuned. Okay, Rich. So we're going to try to remove the bowl from the carburetor to do the jet upgrade. It's a 10mm socket. Hopefully I can put this one. Bottom and off it. You don't talk much again. Just here for the lovely hand models. No, nothing good to say, so don't say anything. Let your philosophy. So that's off now. So inside here, up the centre, Richard, is our jet that we need to remove, which we just get a flat blade screwdriver. And maybe someone with eyes who can see it. And just be very careful because it's quite soft. You don't want to strip anything. But we just need to remove that so that we can change it out. There's one unscrewing. There may be a needle above it, which may come out at the same time. Or is that? Oh, that's the flow. So you got your 2 bits?
Yeah.
Did you know which way that fell out? So putting it back in the right way? Okay, Richard. So what did you work out with the jet?
So we just put it in the right way with the thinner end up.
Right.
So we'll do that. And you put your new jet back in.
Yep. And get your flat blade.
Yep.
Tighten it back up.
Yep.
Being real careful not to go too tight because the materials are quite soft.
Yep. So just nipped it up.
Yep. Then we put a bowl back on, and we did put a mark on the bowl and on the top of carburetor there to make sure it all goes back the way it was. Get our bolt. Done. Bolt on the inside there of the fuel tank.
This is an 8mm.
8mm, okay. Win.
I think so. It's out. It's a long bolt.
So on the other side of this fuel tank, it are the two little nuts, which are 10 mil. Ready?
Yep.
Ready?
Yep.
There's a little post and finally it's off. Oh, so that's our governor arm. So we could remove the muffler. So we're using a 13mm spanner to remove the nuts that hold the exhaust on. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. What's that? Oh, it's got some spring washer. Nice, so the exhaust is off. So there's two nuts on this side holding it in. Okay, so I'm going to use my 10mm socket on my impact wrench to remove the airbox. You got hold of the engine there, Richard? Ready?
Yep.
Oh yeah, man and his toys. Haha, that's one I prepared earlier. And this tube that comes from the valve cover, we have to turn down and cut and put on one of our vent filters that we got from a kit from Power Sports. Alright, so I rotated this for our vent filter and just cut the excess off. I think. Oh yeah, there we go. So you get multiple size filters and zip ties. Maybe I only need that much. That works. Touch our zip tie. Job done. So now we can attach the hot air filter bracket, which we usually use the nuts from the fuel tank. We have to attach the bracket that goes to this arm to the back of it. I need an Allen key for that. So you get the bracket and, oh no, it's not, it's a socket.
Okay.
You bolt, attaches to the back of the bracket there that goes over the rods. So what, you just slide that on?
No, you've got to line it up with the notches in the top of the carburetor. And then the bracket just goes over that lever for the choke. That's
Okay.
what it's called.
So before you tighten that bolt down anymore, so we now put the nuts that hold the aluminium adapter in.
Yes. And yeah, maybe that's a good idea, and then we'll do a final adjustment.
Okay. So I think it's the nuts that we had before from the fuel tank, these flanged ones.
So you have to have a bit of a think about how to put this bracket on for the for the choke. And these bolts that bolt the air filter base and the whole carburetor down need to be tightened down evenly. And we're going to do a final adjustment on this bracket. If I can get to that bolt back there.
Okay, so that's been a bit of a frustration for Richard and I, trying to get the adapter plate bracket on for the air filter, pod air filter. We ended up also removing all the throttle linkages because and the actual arm off the governor, because that's not required. We're going to use a full throttle plate. But we did manage to get those flange nuts on that came off the fuel tank, and the bracket is now up tight, and we had to bend that a little bit to get it to fit over the choke handle on the carburetor. That's about it, wasn't it, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so on to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing we've got to do is to remove the coil, and then we'll look at removing the flywheel so we can get in behind to do the governor removal. So you work out that's an 8mm socket for that?
Yeah, it is.
Rich? Okay. Alright, there we go.
Yeah, no, I told you the wrong way.
Oh, that'll be right. It's hard to find good help, you know.
And this one?
Yeah, that one too, yeah. Done. Oh, is there a wire there? Oh, it's okay. Oh, that's the wire for the, is that for the kill switch?
Yeah, it looks
Okay, so we're going to undo the nut on the flywheel to remove the flywheel. So I've got our impact wrench with the 21mm socket. Wish me luck, Richard. Oh gee, that was probably the easiest thing I've done today. Off comes our fan. Now the tricky part, to remove the flywheel. So we've wound the nut back on to protect the shaft, and we've got our flat blade screwdriver to use as a bit of a pry bar in behind the flywheel. So I'm going to give the nut a whack, and hopefully that pries the flywheel loose from the shaft. Wish us luck. You ready, Richard?
Yep.
Doesn't seem to be doing anything. Okay, Richard. Success. After a few attempts, we managed to get the flywheel to pry off. Ooh, that's heavy.
Good.
Well, like that, maybe. So now you can see the pin here at the back that has the governor wheel on the inside. But we do now need to get to this other side and remove the side cover, undoing these bolts, making sure that we don't tear the gasket, so that we can get to the inside to do that governor removal.
Yep.
life easy. What do we do before power tools?
Hand tools?
Hand tools and swirl up. You'll want to slide over the top of it. Like that.
Keep this in one piece.
I wanted to, yep. So we removed the side cover and now you can see the governor wheel and the governor arm, which is attached to this top part. So from the other side, that pin that I showed before, we have to remove, which this will then come out in one piece, and then remove the top part. So Richard's got the Dremel and we're going to take the top off the governor arm. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that allows us to get it out. I was using the rotary Dremel tool with the cutting blade. Where's your safety glasses, Richard? Good work. Safety first.
How much do I have to cut off of that?
Oh, I think it's just as close to that pin as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Success.
Yeah.
We've got the governor arm out. We have to make sure we get the washers out that are in the top there. So I'm just using a magnetic tool that you can pick up from any auto shop. Okay, so we've got the arm out, removed the washer, removed any excess grease. Now we have to knock out the pin here with the governor gear using a center punch. Chronometer. Ready? This should be plastic gears and stuff. Oh, so I've got to rotate it to make it a bit easier. Should be right now. You got your magnet tool there. So we have our we call these soft tapping bolts that we got from Go Power Sports for using to fill the holes on the two governor holes, one for the arm and the one from the back for the pin. So we'll use one of the washers each that came out. There was 3 washers from the governor removal, so use one each and then put some red Loctite on each of them and go from there. Okay, so we've got our self-tapping bolt in the washer with some red Loctite on it. Wish me luck. Ready? Yep. So we got that one in alright, so we'll now do the other one at the back. Alright?
Yep.
Done?
Yep.
Okay, so we put our side cover on after doing our governor removal. I've just started each of these bolts with my finger to get them started, so you reduce your risk of cross-threading. So I'm just going to use my normal 10mm to get them snug. done that, I'll take that socket off. And then we use our torque wrench. And I've set it to the recommended specification for the engine manufacturer to 30 newton-meters of torque. So I'll tighten all those bolts up to the exact specifications. Done. Okay, so we're now just putting our flywheel back on to do our fan. I assume it just goes that way.
Yeah.
Like that. Then there was the cup, which I'm assuming that notch goes in the hole here, like so. And our big nut.
Not 21 again.
Use our impact wrench again with our 21mm head on it. Ready?
I think so.
All good? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to, now that the flywheel's back on, we're now going to reinstall the coil. We have to get the gap between the coil and the flywheel right. So I checked the manual manufacturer specification, which is 0.035 of an inch. Our feeler gauge is actually metric, so 0.90 of a millimeter is pretty close, Rich.
Yep.
So that's what we'll go with. So we're just gonna get the bolt started. I'm gonna move that a bit so it's a bit easier, and then we'll set the gap with the feeler gauge and tighten the bolts down. And they're 8mm socket needed to do these bolts.
So we just got the right 0.9 gauge and the gap there, and then once you've got them nipped up, you just tighten them down. That's right. Get my hand out of the way. You should be right then.
Alright, so the next step is probably to install our throttle top plate, which we painted. We've already installed the mounting bracket and what do you call that, Richard?
Cable holder.
Cable holder that the throttle cable comes into. Yeah, so that just goes on this way, I think. And you get the bolts, two bolts, and there's a single bolt from the back here. So we'll see how we go with this. Washer that side, and that. And the other one. Where'd the washer go? There it is. We'll put this other front bolt in first. This is a bit of play with the other thing. So that's your 5mm Allen key.
That's alright.
All good?
Yep.
All good?
Yep.
Ooh. What did I just do? All good?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got our throttle linkage that runs to the carburetor to this pivoting arm on our throttle plate. At the end we had to bend 90 degrees to get this to work. So one end will go in this bottom hole here, and the other end will go in the carby. So yeah, want me to hold that and to get this fuel line out of the way. Alrighty, so we got the rod in after bending that. We had to actually bend it because we bent it the wrong way again. And then we've installed this spring which came from the original throttle setup on the engine, and just drilled another hole in the end which kind of works as a throttle return spring. That's probably it for the throttle plate installation for now. Still got to put the engine cowling on, the pull start, clutch has got to go on, so there's a few more bits and pieces to do on the engine. Okay, so just an update on the full throttle plate that we installed on our mini bike engine. We actually had this lever around the wrong way. It's spring loaded, and it came pre-assembled, but you actually want it spring loaded so that it closes the carburetor automatically, and originally when we assembled it, it wasn't. It was actually spring loaded the other way and keeping the throttle open, which is not what you want. So we removed the linkage, reset the lever and reinstalled the linkage, and once we had that right, we then also used a hot glue gun with our feeler gauge underneath here. I'm just pulling out and show you that. So just like that, and inserted some hot glue there at the top, and what that does is stops the rod from coming all the way out. There's still a little bit of play, and you can still remove it if you ever need to, but the hot glue just keeps it from pulling all the way out while it's on the bike and running. So that's all now set up, ready to go. Alright, so now that the throttle plate's installed and all working correctly, we're going to reinstall our blower cover, or flywheel cowl, that we've originally removed all the blue paint off the motor and had it all painted black to fit in with our theme of our bike. So that just goes on, and if you watched our earlier videos, I actually stripped some of the bolts, trying to get that off originally. Okay, so we've got our cowling in, and I have our 10mm socket, and I'll just get some of these bolts started. Okay, so I've got all the 4 bolts now started, and I'm going to tighten them up with the ratchet. Done. So we've got our cowling on. Because we're not going to use the original factory kill switch that came on the motor, I have a plug that we can plug that original hole up, and the mini bike kit comes with a kill switch that will be mounted on the handlebars. The next part is to install our exhaust on our engine. So this is our trumpet pipe that we bought from Go Power Sports to go on. Just goes onto the studs like so, and in the kit you get spring washers and nuts, and there are 1/2 inch that you probably need a 1/2 inch spanner on. I don't think you'll get in there with a socket, and probably ideally you want to try and wind them down evenly, although that's easier said than done. Alright, so I've got wound those nuts down. Yeah, this side here I did have to use a spanner, the other one I could get a socket on. Just make sure they're as tight as can be. So now we're going to install our clutch, which comes with the Rascal minibike kit from Go Power Sports. I'd already loosened the 10mm bolt off with our impact wrench originally, so I'll just undo that. Then the engine comes with this sleeve over it from the factory to protect the shaft in transit, and you can see the key on the crank, and I took the key out of the groove on the crank because you get one with the clutch. I'm just going to put some anti-seize grease on the crank, just if we ever have to get it off. I've heard it just helps. Not a lot, because obviously it gets very hot. So this is our clutch that comes with our mini bike kit. It goes on this way, and obviously you have to line up with the slot on the crank so you can get your key in. Hopefully. So yeah, so once you get it started, and then we use those hammer. So we're partway through the clutch installation, and I realised we probably should have installed the bolts for the chain guard, clutch guard that will go onto the motor once we get it on the bike frame. I've just got these bolts here with the spring washers, and they go in this hole, or these 3 holes across the top here. Hopefully I can still get into them with the clutch on. So yeah, I've got those bolts in a little bit. I didn't want to tighten them down too much, so that gives us a bit of room for when we go to put the clutch guard, chain guard on. The other thing I wanted to do was put the set screws in for the clutch. These are a 3mm Allen key. I'll probably put a bit of Loctite on those. I've heard people, you don't have to use them. Some people choose not to. But you get them with the clutch, so I thought, oh well, might as well. The only thing I don't like with them, and I think it looks a bit like a dog's breakfast, I'll show you in a second. They're too long. I mean, why can't they be the right length? And one definitely doesn't need to be as long as the other because it sits on the key in the crankshaft. Anyway, it will get covered up by the clutch chain guard, so won't quite look as bad then, but yeah, not a fan. So now that we've got those set screws in, I was going to put the bolts into the end of the crank here for the clutch. And just put a bit of Loctite on that as well. Just start that by the fingers. And we'll use our impact wrench with our 10mm socket. Tighten that up. Done. Okay, so we've got our pull start assembly that we've freshly painted. We have to reapply grease, which we're just using our lithium high temperature grease that we have from MissMoo. Just gonna run around. Okay, so we've got a sufficient covering of our red lithium grease all over everything. And we've got our pull start assembly with the rope on it and the spring. There is a notch, like a cutout in the center there, and we have to try and line up the spring part so it sits in that notch, from what I understand. So we're just going to give that a try now. Okay, so that did go down. It actually clicked down in place, and I fed the rope through the hole on the pull start assembly so that we can retie the handle to the top. Okay, so just with this plate, when you go to mount this top plate, the bolt goes through and then you have the spring, and these notches here have to line up with the cutouts in the wheel here that these two paddles grab onto. I just thought I'd show you that. And it is a 10mm socket. So now we have a fully working pull start. Alright, so we're going to attach our pull start. I've already put my sticker on. Now I'm going to have the cord come out this side of the engine. Obviously you can rotate it, and originally it was that way, but I thought that might interfere with the pod air filter assembly that we're going to put on. So hopefully this works out all right. And these are the original bolts that we took out, which are an 8mm socket. Doors. Done. Okay, so I've got our pull start on. The next step now is to put the oil in. So we've got our Australian-made, Australian-owned Penrite that we're going to put in. I believe it's around 600ml for the sump. So we'll give that a go now. Alright, so I've measured out 600ml of our Penrite oil. I'm just going to, I've rigged up some sort of contraption here with a funnel. Make it a bit easier. So we've got the oil in, so that engine is now complete, ready to be mounted into our Rascal mini bike frame and broken in. Took longer than I thought, and was, you know, things never go to plan. Big thank you to Abby and Richard for all your hard work. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching this video. Leave your comments below. If you have any questions, leave them below. We'll happily respond if we can. Give us a like. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our other content. The next step is put the motor in. Still got a few things to do on the mini bike frame itself. Still have to work out the brake with the spacer situation. I have got some tube, so yeah, that'll be in the next upcoming video. Thank you again.